Who needs a concert hall when you've got a flying piano bar serenading you above the clouds? Airplane food used to be less about peanuts and more about feasting like royalty. Today we take a look at 10 air travel features that define the golden age of flying. Back in the day, if you wanted to stretch your legs on a plane, you didn't have to be a contortionist. Airplane cabins used to be less crowded, with seats that offered more legroom and were wider, making flights a lot more comfortable. This extra space meant passengers could relax and enjoy their journey without feeling cramped. It was a time when air travel felt more like a luxury experience rather than just a way to get from point A to point B. Airlines focused more on passenger comfort than squeezing in as many seats as possible. The seat pitch, which is the distance between seats, was around 36 to 40 inches back then, compared to 28 inches today. Imagine sitting on a plane and being served a fancy dinner like you're at a high-end restaurant. Back in the day, flying on an airplane meant you could expect gourmet meals. These weren't just any meals, they were multi-course feasts prepared by skilled chefs. Passengers were treated to dishes like carved roast beef or turkey, and everything was served on fine china with real silverware, making it a truly luxurious experience. It wasn't just about the food, it was about making flying a special event. Olympic Airways even had gold-plated cutlery in their first-class cabins. You wouldn't catch someone wearing pajamas on a plane. It was more like a fashion show in the sky. During this period, both passengers and crew members dressed in their finest attire when flying. It was common to see men in suits and ties and women in elegant dresses and hats, treating air travel as a prestigious event. Flight attendants, or stewardesses as they were known, wore eye-catching uniforms designed by top fashion houses like Christian Dior and Chanel. This stylish approach to air travel made flying a glamorous and memorable experience. The fashion-forward nature of air travel during this time was so prominent that some airlines even hosted fashion shows right in the aisles. Believe it or not, there was a time when you could enjoy live piano music while flying through the clouds. In the 1970s, some first-class sections of airplanes were more like flying luxury lounges, complete with cocktail bars and pianos. These lounges provided space for passengers to relax, socialize, and enjoy a drink or two. These pianos weren't your typical grand pianos, but were often electric Wurlitzer organs. This setup created an atmosphere of a sophisticated party in the sky, where travelers could unwind and even sing along to tunes played by the onboard pianist. American Airlines famously had an economy-class piano bar at the rear of their 747-100 cabin, making the joy of live music accessible to more passengers. If you wanted to feel like a famous star, all you had to do was step off an airplane. Before the invention of jet bridges, passengers often disembarked using air stairs or a mobile stairway. This meant that they got to experience the tarmac directly, feeling the breeze and seeing the airport up close as they walked down. Air stairs were a common feature in many aircraft, including the famous Boeing 727 and the McDonnell Douglas DC-9. They provided more independence from ground services and were especially useful at smaller airports without sophisticated infrastructure. Air stairs also played a unique role in 1971 when hijacker D.B. Cooper made his daring escape parachuting from the back of a Boeing 727. Did you know that airplanes once had spiral staircases? When the first commercial plane soared into the sky, architecture took off too. The design of airports and the interiors of planes were heavily influenced by the aesthetics of aviation. For example, the Boeing 747, introduced in 1970, was not just a plane but a masterpiece of design. It had 2 stories connected by a spiral staircase, and its cabins could hold over 500 passengers. The influence of aviation design didn't just stay in the sky, it also inspired buildings on the ground. Like the TWA terminal at JFK Airport, designed by Euro Saarinen, which looks like a bird in flight. Flight engineers were once as essential to flying an airplane as pilots. A flight engineer, also known as an air engineer, was a key member of an aircraft's crew, responsible for managing and operating the plane's complex systems. They didn't actually fly the plane. Instead, they had a special panel to monitor and control things like the engines and other critical flight systems. These engineers worked closely with the pilots, especially during takeoff, flight, and landing, to make sure everything ran smoothly. In the past, larger planes couldn't fly without them, but now, thanks to modern technology, computers do most of their work. The last major U.S. passenger airline to use flight engineers was Northwest Airlines, who retired their final planes with engineer stations in 2009. In the old days of flying, you could send a postcard from the sky. Airlines used to provide special postcards for passengers during their flights. People could write messages on these cards, sharing their travel experiences or just saying hello from above the clouds. After landing, these postcards were mailed, carrying greetings from one part of the world to another. This was before the time of smartphones and the internet, so sending a postcard was a popular way to stay in touch. These in-flight postcards are now rare collectibles, treasured by enthusiasts for their unique history and charm. There was a time when getting on a plane was as easy as hopping on a bus, as airport security was much more relaxed. You didn't have to arrive hours early, take off your shoes, or worry about how much liquid was in your carry-on. Companies at the time were worried that metal detectors would scare passengers and invade their privacy. This casual approach changed over time, especially as hijackings became more common. Between May 1961 and the end of 1972, there were 159 aircraft hijackings in U.S. airspace. The first airport to use metal detectors was New Orleans International Airport in 1970, a big step towards the security we know today. Airplanes were like flying lounges, where smoking wasn't just allowed, it was pretty normal. In those times, many flights had special areas just for smoking, where passengers could light up their cigarettes or cigars. It's hard to imagine now, but people used to smoke right there in their seats, and the air in the cabin was often filled with smoke. This was well before we knew how bad smoking is for our health, so no one really thought twice about it. Flight attendants would even hand out cigarettes as part of the service. The last U.S. flight where smoking was allowed took off in 2000, marking the end of an era where lighting up in the skies was just part of the journey. If you enjoyed this American Rewind video, go ahead and watch the next one. And remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below.